Hello. 4 days of discussion and work were spent on the third European Youth Work Convention, and it was worth it.
On the last day of the convention, the final declaration was presented, and those are the most important cornerstones of it.
The declaration calls for a framework to set the standards in what should be sort of a minimum offer for youth work for young people on a local level. And there's also calling for a co-managed system of this offer, so also that young people can actually have a meaningful say and also guide and manage the processes that they are a part of, and also the spaces that they are part of. And this would then also contribute to the enhancement of social inclusion and diversity. And within the declaration, we are introducing also a proactive strategy about this. And besides this, there's also another concrete suggestion is a European charter on creating on good governance of funding for these organizations. And this entails a lot of things from transparency to setting clear objectives, which could serve then also the implementation on all levels actually in Europe. We cannot just say that youth work is valuable and expect them to understand immediately. There's a need to find a way to promote youth work in a way that has an impact truly. And for this, also some multidisciplinary structures, networks, and bodies on youth should be established, both when it comes to policy and practice. We also found that investing in technological infrastructure and innovation, so this connects to digital and smart youth work quite greatly, will be relevant and important. We also found the need for making youth work greener. We also found a need for making youth work as one of the primary civic society development strategies, which links a lot with democratic backsliding and shrinking civic spaces in Europe, for example. And we really see that there's a need for strengthened cooperation at European level between the European Commission and the Council of Europe. Also to mainstream youth policies horizontally, actually. So not just within the departments or units that are dealing with youth, but how do those departments and units communicate within their institutions about youth work, and how can they promote the youth angle to be included in the policies of the other sectors. So yeah, I think this is the closing sentence of the declaration, and we found it very fitting as the closing sentence of the presentation. So yeah, basically, just let's put it into action, because it is no less than the young people of Europe demand and deserve.
The function of this declaration is quite straightforward. It is to secure that community of practice has voice in the process of implementation of European Youth Work Agenda. What we do know that there is a political will in Europe, both from the side of Council of Europe and European Commission, to advance youth work in Europe. Also, this political will be implemented throughout the concrete measures, namely the Bonn process. This declaration is the expression of community of practice of how this Bonn process should look like, how the implementation of the European Youth Work Agenda should look like. In other words, the idea is to provide guidance and support for the Bonn process, but also to give recommendation to practice and policy for further development of European Youth Work Agenda. But make no mistake, this final declaration is not only intended for European institutions, it is also intended for national authorities to continue developing youth work according to the needs in their national realities. By this declaration, the community of practice is taking the ownership on youth work development in Europe and basically taking the self-commitment that is going to monitor and evaluate all those activities that European institutions together with other stakeholders are going to take place in order to secure the advancement of youth work development in Europe. But also what is important to say is that this declaration is invited for European Youth Work Community of Practice beyond European Youth Work Convention participants to get involved in the Bonn process and support broader outreach. I would say this declaration should serve as an inspiring moment for decision making, but also for the vast number of stakeholders to help strengthening and developing quality youth work across Europe.
But that is not the end of work, of course. The Bonn process is just beginning.
We have a declaration, we have an agenda where we can work on. And I hopefully can see, I cannot see you, but hopefully there is a community of youth workers willing to commit together with us to make this agenda a reality. The EU Youth Agenda is there, and we are fully on board. The EU Council of Ministers has already last month adopted a strong resolution to get a political intention to focus and support youth work in the future. And now we have your inputs to see how we can make this happen.
On our side, we will, of course, also support the Bonn agenda through the training and networking of multipliers in several ways, both in our youth centers, European youth centers in Strasbourg and in Budapest, but also through the network of youth centers which have received the quality label of the Council of Europe. We will do so also through the European Youth Foundation and its grants, and finally also through a very important youth policy assistance to our member states.
Our role and ambition is to build bridges between European, national, regional and local levels, and to build bridges between policies and practices. This is what we are doing since decades, and this is what where we will continue on. And we believe that this is one of the important contributions also in the Bonn process.
I can say with no doubt that you have the most reliable and the most passionate ally on your side, us. Young people, youth organizations. So we ask everyone involved, and in particular decision makers, to co-create and co-manage youth work strategies, policies, activities with young people, and to ensure that young people are not just listened to, but that we do really have a seat at the table where decisions are made.
We need to be aware that the Bonn process is the result of our involvement in developing the mechanism for implementing the agenda. If priorities and objectives are set at European level, it is within our duty to nationalize these objectives and to develop national implementation tools and policies.
I think it's really important to reach out outside of our little bubble. Of course, to enhance cooperation vertically and horizontally between our community of practice, but also to reach outside of this bubble. Because I really hope one day, like in a couple of years, I will be able to say I'm a youth worker and I will not have to explain it any further. And my last thought is that I think that now we as youth workers, what we can do is to have the courage to act and to seize this moment.
We hope you are successful in the further implementation of the Bonn process.
See you again.
Bye.